what you're about to hear wasn't meant for public ears. This isn't rumor. This isn't speculation. Once you know what's inside this story, you can't unknow it. Because according to Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, Meghan Markle's past holds a hidden chapter, one carefully buried until now. It didn't begin with Prince Harry. It didn't start with royal introductions, manicured lawns, or polite smiles at palace gates. It began far from land, on the water aboard Prince Andrew's private yacht. And that's where everything changed. Sarah Ferguson doesn't just hint at something scandalous, she claims something far more dangerous. That she possesses private materials no one was ever supposed to see. Letters written in Meghan's own hand. Recordings never meant to be heard. Memories captured in ways that cannot be dismissed or denied. Evidence, she says, that tells a story the public was never supposed to hear. According to Sarah, Meghan wasn't a stranger in Andrew's world. She had a role there. And the word Sarah used to describe that role has the power to destroy reputations. She called Meghan Andrew's first client. If those words are true, even partially, the story we've all been told about Meghan Markle doesn't just fracture, it implodes. Because a client isn't a casual guest. A client implies arrangement, intent, and transaction. A relationship built on something more structured than coincidence. Sarah's phrasing doesn't belong in gossip columns or polite royal whispers. It belongs in reports that shake institutions. What makes this claim even more explosive is not just what's said, but what's implied. A client suggests understanding. It suggests negotiation. And it suggests that whatever happened aboard those yachts wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Sarah describes Meghan not as a passive attendee, but as someone who played a part, known, observed, familiar to Andrew. This wasn't a one-time encounter. It was repeated, recognizable, and deeply personal. The tone changes when you start to realize this wasn't about a simple meeting. It was about access, about a world hidden behind velvet curtains and sealed envelopes. For Prince Harry, that single phrase, his first client, must have felt like the ground collapsing beneath him. The man who spent his life separating himself from Andrew's shadow suddenly found his wife described as part of it. The very person he defended against the entire royal establishment now being linked to the one family member he most publicly rejected. Harry's entire identity revolved around truth, transparency, and rebellion against the monarchy's hypocrisy. And yet, this claim, if true, suggested that his rebellion might be built upon an illusion. In Sarah Ferguson's account, the story doesn't stop with whispers. There are physical traces, letters written in familiar handwriting, containing private references, and inside jokes only someone present could know. Sentences that described moments and places aboard Andrew's yacht not visible to casual visitors. Things only an insider would remember. Sarah says when she first saw these letters, she didn't want to believe them. But as she read, disbelief turned to recognition. It wasn't just the ink or the handwriting, it was the tone, the way the words felt intimate, comfortable, unguarded, the way they spoke of shared time and experiences that could only come from proximity. Those letters stayed hidden for years, tucked away, feared, protected, because paper doesn't take sides. It simply exists, proof waiting for discovery. But letters, even those, can be denied. Handwriting can be questioned, provenance debated. What can't be refuted so easily, however, is a voice. According to Sarah, the silence shattered when voices entered the picture. Recordings of conversations between Andrew and Meghan, captured long before Harry's chapter began. These weren't official interviews or friendly reunions. They were private exchanges, relaxed, natural, completely unaware of being preserved. And that is where denial becomes impossible, because a voice is identity. It carries tone, personality, gesture. A voice reveals familiarity in ways text never can. If those recordings truly exist, they shift the story from rumor into history. For Harry, the emotional impact would be devastating. Imagine learning that the woman you built your life around, your public war, your love story, might have once shared secret conversations with the uncle you despised most. That isn't just betrayal. That's the kind of revelation that tests belief itself. Reports suggest that, as these allegations spread quietly behind palace walls, Harry withdrew, torn between disbelief and suspicion, between anger and grief. Because admitting the possibility meant accepting that his marriage, his cause, and his rebellion might all have roots he never understood. Inside the royal institution, silence became its own strategy. There were no official denials, no carefully worded clarifications, only quiet corridors, closed-door meetings, and calls that ended without statements. The palace knows how stories like this evolve, and how they can destroy more than reputations. Acknowledging the claims risked validating them, denying them risked provoking proof. And if physical evidence existed, letters, recordings, even the monarchy wouldn't be able to contain it. Behind the gilded walls, fear replaced confidence. Fear not of rumors, but of what might surface next. The royal family had survived scandals before, but this one threatened to connect too many dangerous dots. Andrew's past, Meghan's alleged involvement, and Harry's open defiance of his lineage. It was explosive. Sarah Ferguson for years kept her silence. She watched the world turn its eyes to Harry and Meghan's love story while knowing what she claims sat in a locked drawer. But when she finally spoke, it wasn't in riddles. It was direct. She claimed Meghan's connection to Andrew was not accidental, not incidental, but habitual. According to her, the yachts were more than luxury escapes. They were carefully chosen sanctuaries designed for privacy, outfitted for conversations and encounters that could never survive the light of day. On open water, away from cameras, the rules didn't apply. Titles blurred, roles shifted, and what happened on board stayed there. Sarah portrayed those gatherings not as glamorous leisure, but as controlled environments where influence and intimacy intertwined. Powerful men, silent deals, and guests who understood the unspoken boundaries. Meghan, she claims, wasn't an outsider to that circle. She knew how it worked. She returned more than once, and that's what makes the yacht the heart of this story. The stage where appearance and secrecy sailed side by side. What's chilling isn't only what Sarah says happened there, but what remains hidden. Because according to her, those letters and recordings still exist, locked away, waiting, not released because they lack truth, but because their truth carries consequences too large to contain. If those materials ever surfaced, they wouldn't just expose a scandal. They would rewrite the royal narrative from the beginning. They would suggest that Meghan's story, the woman who married into the monarchy only to break it apart, may have begun in the very shadow she later tried to escape. The question now isn't whether Sarah Ferguson will speak again. It's whether the past will. Because history, once awakened, never goes back to sleep. Out on those waters, where Andrew's yacht drifted beneath quiet skies, laughter once echoed across the decks. Cameras were nowhere to be found. Conversations stayed private. Secrets sealed by the sound of waves. But somewhere in that silence, the first whispers of a story began. One that would one day rise from the deep and force everyone to ask what really happened before the fairy tale began. And if that yacht could talk, if its walls could repeat the voices it once heard, this wouldn't be the end of a story. It would be the beginning of one far darker. Because ghosts don't die when you leave them behind. They wait. And sometimes they come back. And yet, for all the whispers, claims, and supposed evidence, one reality still hangs over this entire story like a shadow. None of it has fully surfaced in the light of day, at least not in any way the world can independently verify or trust without question. That uncertainty is exactly what keeps this narrative alive, feeding speculation, fueling outrage, and trapping every person involved in a story that may never be told in full. Until the day those letters, those recordings, or that tell-all either explode into the open or are buried forever, this isn't just Meghan's past or Harry's burden or Fergie's secret. It's a ticking story, waiting for someone, somewhere, to finally decide whether it stays rumor or becomes reality.